I have no idea what y'all doing on defense. Zero. Y'all have no idea what y'all doing on defense. Zero. Zero.
That video sums up last year for the Seton Hall Pirates. They finished the year 7-25, 2-18 in the Big East, and they never looked competitive. But this year, it's been a lot different. They've started the year 11-2, and they've looked fantastic. And the reason they've been so good this year is because of their defense. Their offense has been pretty mediocre, but boy oh boy, that defense has been straight up elite. They're currently 13th in the country with an adjusted defensive efficiency of 95.3, meaning on average, teams score 0.95 points per possession. But that's not what makes this defense so crazy. It's how they pressure you and how they speed you up. They're currently 5th in the country, turning teams over on 24.1 of their offensive possessions. They also lead the country in block percentage by a very wide margin, blocking nearly 20% of opponent shot attempts. They also lead the country in steal percentage as they're able to generate steals on 16% of the offense's possessions. So in this video, we're going to take a closer look at the Pirates defense and see if Coach Shaheen Holloway can bring this Seton Hall team, led by their New Jersey toughness, back to March Madness. The first thing that allows Seton Hall to play this style of defense is their depth. They play a legit 11-man rotation, and 7 of these 11 rotation players average a steal per game, if not more. Atop this rotation is the point guard of Seton Hall, a name you need to get familiar with because he is awesome to watch. It's 5'10" Adam Bud Clark, and I think they're being a little generous with his height. Bud is one of the best defenders in this country, period. His instincts and quickness are next level, and his IQ tops it all off. The craziest stat I found during this video is when players are being guarded by Bud Clark, they're shooting 7 for 37 from inside the arc. 7 for 37 on a 5'9" guard. There's so many elite things Bud does on the defensive end, but the first thing we need to talk about is how he refuses to be screened. Because he's so small and so quick, when that screen comes, he can shrink the gap between the ball handler and the screener, and just like that, the offense has to get into the next action. And this ability is a game changer. Pretty much every modern offense in college wants to use ball screens, and if you have a player that denies that action from working, that takes away about 75% of the playbook. And he wouldn't be able to blow up these screens if he wasn't putting immense pressure on the ball every chance he got. He's also super physical, but he's able to get away with that physicality because he always does a great job of showing his hands to the ref whenever that contact starts to initiate further. And the pressure that Clark puts on the ball is infectious throughout this whole Seton Hall team because they all put pressure on the ball, they all want to speed you up, and it's not fun to play against. They like to pick the ball up full court every time man to man, but sometimes that could change as they throw in a run and jump when they need it, and this just messes with the offense. This group is one of the most athletic groups in the country, and not just in the guard position. They have wings that love to run, and they have athletic forwards that can rotate when needed. They make angles look like they're open and they're not. And they make angles look like they're not open when they really are. And this just gets the opposing team and they make silly mistakes over and over against this Seton Hall team. So let's say the opposing team is able to consistently beat the press. Well, then you have to score against this half-court defense. And if Bud Clark isn't blowing up the screens, then they're blitzing every pick and roll they get a chance to. And the thing I love about their bigs that not other many big men in the country can do is move with their hands up. Not just up high, but wide. They lengthen their frame so much that it just eliminates the opposing guard from seeing any angles that may be open. And often against this blitz, the guard makes the mistake of trying to beat it, whether it's trying to split the double team or beat the big to the sideline. And this team is too athletic for that. And if the guard doesn't try to beat it, then he panics, picks his dribble up, and that falls right into Seton Hall's trap because these guards that are helping from the wings, they tag that roll man and it's a steal. Or if the pass does get to the roll man, now you have a big man who's probably not the best playmaker trying to figure out a 3-on-2 with all these bodies flying all over the court. And that's assuming the pass to the big can even get made because the hands on this roster are insane. College basketball doesn't have an official tracking stat for deflections, but Seton Hall has to be number one. The coaching staff of Seton Hall deserve a lot of credit because this is something you absolutely have to teach. But these hands are so active, it's so disruptive to play against. Routine passes that regularly get open aren't open against Seton Hall because they get a fingertip on it, and that's all you need to disrupt the play and get a steal. A lot of these deflections do come from the weak side defender, and that's the next thing I want to talk about. It's how they help and how aggressive they are with their rotations. When the ball's driving not from the middle of the court, Seton Hall wants that help to come from the baseline, with this weak side defender zoning up and splitting the difference between the other two players on the perimeter. These are the principles of the no middle defense that's always been around, but it was made popular in 2019 with Texas Tech's Final Four run under Chris Beard and 2021 Baylor's championship run under Scott Drew. What this style of defense does is it forces the ball away from the paint and limits the offensive options to the sideline, as that's the only thing that's open. When the ball gets forced to the sideline, it makes the rotations easier, as wherever the ball goes to, that's where this defender's going, and then it's a chain reaction with everyone taking the open man. But when the ball's coming towards the middle of the court, Seton Hall is helping, and they're not just sitting in the gaps, they're attacking the gaps, trying to push the ball handler backwards. They don't just want to contain the ball, they want to attack the ball and make the ball handler make a quick decision. And this is where those elite hands come into play again, because they strip the ball so often in the gaps. One of the main philosophies of this defense is making the offense make plays. They're going to force the ball handler to be able to make that kickout pass because it will be open. Then they force the man who's spotting up to make a quick decision. Is he open enough for a shot? Does he have a driving lane? And if the answers are no, then they have to reset the offense. Now, there's one more nuance to this defense that I really love watching, and I think it's what makes them so elite, and it's how they utilize Bud Clark. As great as an on-ball defender as he is, he's arguably a better off-ball defender because he's the quarterback. He sees the floor so well and has great anticipation skills. So what they'll do is they'll put Bud Clark on whichever player's by the break, which is this spot on the court, and he has no intentions to stay with this matchup throughout the possession. Pretty much any screening actions that require the man in the corner to come up is an automatic switch, so even though it is a man defense, these two players are pretty much just guarding their zone, and they'll take whichever man pops into the zone, keeping the big man in the back and Clark on the top. And this allows him to play more aggressively in the gaps, knowing that he has help behind him and he only has to worry about everything on the perimeter. And the last thing I love about the perimeter defense is how they wall up when someone is driving and let their big men do the rest of the work. Because Seton Hall is so good at speeding teams up, once those players get sped up, Seton Hall relaxes and backs up and allows the offensive player to make the mistakes. And that's how this team is able to lead the country in block percentage when they only have 6'9" Stephon Paynes and 6'10" Najee Haynes in the paint. These two are great shot blockers, but the other guards make their lives so much easier as all the bigs have to do is finish the play. And their defensive excellence was on full display against Marquette last night, so let's hop into that film. These two Ben Gold free throws put Marquette up 7 with just under 3.5 minutes left in a game where Marquette controlled the entire contest. Marquette goes zone as Seton Hall does have struggles shooting the ball and they miss right here, but Stephon Payne gets the offensive rebound, and he had 14 points and 22 rebounds in this game. After the made free throw, Seton Hall gets into their press, and this is what they do. They speed Marquette up, but Chase Ross, the veteran, does the smart thing and drags the ball back out. But this is what Seton Hall does. Off the pick and roll, they get a hand on the ball, and they get fouled on the catch, heading to the line for 2 more free throws. Seton Hall plays great defense again, and this was more bad offense on Marquette as their offense was stagnant and they were just dribbling the ball around. However, on the other end, Bud Clark's able to penetrate the defense, make a great kick out. They might have got bailed out here as Marquette fouls the 3-point shooter. Off those made free throws, Seton Hall is again able to set up their pressure, and this is what I mean by Bud Clark being a menace. When the ball drives, everyone helps, and Bud Clark has these two players on the wing. He takes the first pass on the kickout, and then he tips the ball, which disrupts the entire offense, and Marquette has to try again. On the reset, Marquette tries to attack Clark, and that's not a very smart decision because he's able to hold his ground, and we see another steal on the perimeter that leads to 2 more points, and this game's been flipped on its head. With Marquette down 1, they call a timeout as they need to run their best play. That best play is a double pin down for Chase Ross coming downhill. When he comes downhill, we see that help. When Ross sees that help, he makes the right read and kicks it out. But this is such a great closeout that it forces a travel, and that's another Marquette turnover. On the other end, Bud Clark gets to the rim, and they allow the smallest player on the court to get a wide open layup. With Seton Hall up 3, they don't like to foul, they want to play straight up, and they force 2 bad shots from Marquette, making this game over. That's the type of squad this team is. They're tough, they're resilient, and with their defense, they're never out of a game. Besides their mediocre offense and poor shooting, the only knock on this team is how much they foul, but that's the trade-off you get when you have such a physical and freakish defense. If they continue to play at this level, this is easily a tournament team, and this is a team that you would not want to play once they continue to mesh and figure everything out come March. So if you made it this far, shout out to you, you the GOAT. I love all of y'all, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.